There have been 3 monetary shocks this century, each one devastating to the people that are holding money. And in this video, I'm going to go over what I see as the 4th monetary shock. We're going to look at what this means, how bad it can get, how fast it's happening, and of course, what we should be watching and we should be doing. So stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Moss. I believe that the only security we have in life is for us to take responsibility for ourselves. The system is broken. No one's gonna come and save you. This is why you must learn to make money, grow money, and protect money on your own. Now, if you agree and you wanna hear more about those types of topics, then click on the like button right now and then hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you're notified every time I put a new video out. All right, so today we are talking about a 4th great monetary shock that's on its way. Like I said, 3 in the last century, and the 4th one is happening right now. So let me ask you a question. Do these dates ring a bell for you? 1907, 1933, 1971 maybe? Now, to most people, these dates probably won't mean very much, but if you've been watching this channel, if you've been watching my channel following along for a while, then most likely you know what those dates mean. If you are one of the people that know what those dates are, then you probably know that those dates are the dates that we had previous monetary shocks. These monetary shocks are really resets or maybe even complete changes to the entire monetary system. And not just for the United States, but for the entire international monetary system. And so, I talk a lot about the dollar, but it always has implications for the entire world. And today we're going to talk about that. Now, each one of these panics, each one of these shocks had major impacts to both savers and investors. And as big as all 3 of those dates were, we're sitting on the edge of a 4th one. We're sitting on the edge of a 4th shock. And I think this final shock is going to obliterate all financial privacy and put all your savings in dollars at risk, no matter which currency you hold them in. Now, again, if you're one of the regular viewers of this channel, this might not be such a surprise, but for most, they will be completely caught off guard. And even if you do know what I'm talking about, have you made the needed adjustments? Have you positioned yourself to be safe and better yet, to profit as these changes happen? Well, today we're gonna talk about this, but first, let's recap what the first 3 shocks were. Like if you don't know what those dates are, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go back through it pretty quickly. You know that if you watch this channel, you know I love to talk about history. So let's jump back into that time machine. Let's take a trip back all the way back to the panic of 1907. Now we're stopping at a time called the 1907 bankers panic. And this was a financial crisis that ended up leading to basically a nationwide collapse of banks. This was in the United States, a nationwide collapse of banks. And the panic of 1907 and the collapse that happened is partly what helped usher in the establishment of the United States Federal Reserve. Now, I'm not going to go super deep into that, but the bankers had basically been trying to establish a central bank in the United States for quite a long time, and it was kind of coming in and going out. Now, there's a book titled The Mystery of Banking by Murray Rothbard. Now, it's a great read. I highly, highly recommend it. And as a matter of fact, in the description of this video, I'm going to link to a free PDF version of the book. It's in the description, it's free. I highly recommend that you download it, read through it, at least skim through it if you want to know anything about what's going on with the banking system. Now, back on track. So after the banking collapse of 1907, we had many Americans that just were completely wiped out financially when the banking system collapsed. Then we had a second major shock happened on April 5th, 1933. Anyone know what that date is? 1933. Talked about it quite a bit on this channel as well. Well, on 1933, April 5th, 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed an executive order 6102. Does that ring a bell? Anyone? Order 6102. Basically what Order 6102 is when the U.S. made it illegal for Americans to own gold. They confiscated the gold, and as soon as they took all the gold back, which was money at the time, right? Gold was money. The dollars were backed by gold. Once they took all that back, they revalued it. And what they did is they revalued the gold, which devalued the currency. So immediately, everyone that was holding on to dollars lost 40% of their wealth overnight because they devalued it once they revalued the dollar. Now this, as you can imagine, caused Americans to get completely wiped out. I mean, losing 40% of your money, your purchasing power overnight was devastating for many people. And then that brings us to the third monetary shock. the third and final before we jump to the fourth. The third one, this was on August 15th, 1971. Anyone know this one? I use this date quite a bit. Hopefully you all should know this one. This is when President Richard Nixon severed all ties between the US dollar and gold. And when he did that, he ushered in paper or fiat money, basically the fiat money, the fake money system that we have today. Now, I've talked about many times how this date, 1971, how this shock was the biggest. It was the most destructive of all the shocks that we've seen. And really, since 1971, it's caused all kinds of problems. We've seen real wages go down. We've seen the divide of the rich and poor grow huge. We've seen inflation take off, prices unaffordable, price of gold has shot up, on and on and on. I've referenced before, again, I highly recommend people to go to the website WTF Happened in 1971 for more. It's just a website full of charts and you can see everything that's happened since 1971, and I will link to it in the description as well. So just go check that out. Now, this brings us back to what we're talking about today. This is the fourth shock. All right. Now, this fourth shock is happening. I think that we are going to see the end of physical currency altogether. Now, I've talked about going to the digital dollar. I've talked about that before, but I don't think most people are ready for what I would say the new reality for everyone. Anyone who earns, uses, or saves US dollars needs to be ready because this new reality is coming. And it goes pretty deep. There's a lot to unpack here, and there's a lot at stake. I mean, this is the reserve currency of the world, so there's a lot at stake here. Now, I'm going to stick to the most important pieces here, but if you want me to dig in deeper on any of these topics, any of this stuff, like always, leave me a comment down below. Tell me specifically what you'd like me to dig in deeper. I can make additional videos to talk about that. All right, but we're going to try and skim through this a little bit. So the first thing that you must know is that drastic changes, like we just saw in those previous three shocks I mentioned, and the fourth one that's shaping up right now, they're devastating. They're completely devastating for your savings and for your money. And the thing that you have to know is that they happen immediately. They happen without any real warning. It's not like they announce it ahead of time and say, hey, everyone, get ready. We're about to take away half your money. They don't tell you that. They happen really quickly. And so that's why it's so important that we pay attention, right? We see things that are progressing. We see, if you want to say, like how the stars are aligning so we can be prepared. We can take actions ahead of time. And it's also why I give so much background information in my videos. Now, I see in my comments quite often, people are like, yeah, you talk too much, just get to the point, right? But I want you to understand, and I want you to have the full picture so you can avoid the fallout. And I want you to be able to protect yourself, protect your hard-earned savings. And I want you to be able to have the chance to make, whatever small, simple, strategic investments that you can, because right now we're setting up to have some massive moves. I think some of these moves have the potential to hand us more than 1,000% returns if we do it right. Now, this might sound a little bit far-fetched that physical cash is on its way out. A lot of people maybe won't realize that, but cash has powerful enemies. A lot of people want to get rid of cash. Governments hate it, because they can't trace your transactions. If you or I do a deal in physical cash, they don't know about that. Only you and I know about that, which is the way it should be. But the government doesn't like it. The banks hate it because the banks, it means that you don't have to rely on them to do transactions, right? You don't have to rely on them to earn, to spend. And if you're not relying on them to earn and spend, then they can't skim off profits, right? They can't skim the money off each transaction. The elites, whoever they are, they also want to get rid of cash. Now, one good example is Ken Rogoff. He's a Harvard professor. He's a former International Monetary Fund, the IMF, International Monetary Fund chief economist. And he's the perfect example of what I would call, quote unquote, establishment economist. In 2016, he published a book called The Curse of Cash, which of course from the title of it sounds like he doesn't like cash, The Curse of Cash. And in it, he argued that the US should basically get rid of all cash, right? He said we need to phase it out of society. We need to get rid of it. He says that cash just helps criminals. Only criminals use cash. It's interesting. I thought people that need to buy things and feed their families use cash too, but I guess we're all criminals. But anyway, he says that only criminals use cash. Only people that want to avoid taxes, use cash. Anyway, here's his solution. He said that all paper currency should be phased out. So what you would do is you would start with banknotes of $50 or more. So get rid of the hundreds, get rid of the 50s, and then eventually you work your way down. Next, eventually you get rid of the 20. Eventually you get rid of the 10, and then maybe you're only left with like dollars and fives, and then probably eventually you get rid of those as well. Now, in Rogoff's world, governments run the money system, right? They run it directly. Now, there's no messing around with stealthy cash, no payment options that you can keep private, that you can keep out of view of the government. All of that has to be banned, is what he says. Now, I hate to break this to you, but in many ways, this war on cash that I'm talking about, it's already over. It's already over. Like, it's game, set, match, if you want to say that, checkmate, whatever. Now, in 2016, this is beyond the US. Now, in 2016, India wiped out 86% of its cash overnight. They just basically said, they woke up one day and said, hey, all bills over 500 and 1,000 rupee, all the banknotes over 500 and 1,000, they're no longer valid. So all those people that have a bunch of cash piled up in their house or saved or wherever it is, sorry, your money's no good. Now, they did give them like a really short time to turn that money in before it was worthless. In my opinion, it wasn't really enough time, especially for people in India that maybe didn't have access to the news and things like that. But it's not just India. Australia claims that they want to be cashless by 2022. It's 2 years away. Denmark says they want to be cashless by 2030, 10 years away. Now, Ecuador was the first country to launch a digital currency last year. The EU, the European Union, they're getting rid of their $500 banknotes, or euro notes, I should say. In France and Italy, you're not allowed to do cash transactions over 1,000 euro. Now, in the US, we already have super strict laws as well, what we call capital control laws. They want to control the capital. So, for instance, if you deposit, transfer, or withdraw $10,000 or more, your bank automatically alerts a bureau within the Treasury Department. And basically, they have to file what's known as a currency transaction report. Same thing if you exchange foreign currencies, anything that's $10,000 or more. And the bureau is called the FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, because I guess it's a crime to use more than $10,000. It says it right in the name. Pretty weird, right? And basically, its job is to monitor, analyze, collect all the data on all Americans' financial transactions. Now, you can get in trouble with the feds even if you deposit, transfer, withdraw less than $10,000. As a matter of fact, if you choose lower amounts, you can still get in trouble. If they think you're trying to evade their reporting, then the banks have to report to you. As a matter of fact, they file something called suspicious activity reports, SARS reports, and the banks have quotas. They have to file a certain amount of these. And if they see you withdrawing cash under that and they think that you're trying to evade the report, then that's a felony. It's a felony. They call it structuring. I was trying to find it for this show. I couldn't find it. There was a lawmaker, a legislator, I forget, a couple years ago that got sentenced to this for structuring. If anybody knows, leave it in the comment down below. But basically, for structuring, for pulling out money, your money out of the bank, less than $10,000, it's a felony. You can face a decade in prison for that. Amazing, right? Now, what we have now is we have a massive catalyst, something really accelerating the fourth shock. And if you want to take a guess at what that is, well, if you guessed the CV pandemic, you'd probably be right. So the CV pandemic is accelerating this, of course. Accelerating the phase out of physical cash. Maybe you've already seen the signs all around. Lots of places where I live have signs, no cash accepted, credit cards only accepted for payment, things like that. We're starting to see signs about, coin shortages, cash shortages, all these things. And of course, thanks to the pandemic, there's all types of fears now that cash is dirty, cash could hold diseases and all these things. So that's why, we see retailers, coffee shops, restaurants, etc. And they're all saying, nope, we don't want your cash. We don't want it. And so that's probably going to be the final nail in the coffin. Like I said, it's really accelerating this. And you might have heard the old saying, the old government ethos, if you will, the quote unquote, never let a crisis go to waste. Well, that's a perfect analogy for what we're having right here. They're using this pandemic crisis to push their agenda to get rid of cash. A crisis allows them to do lots of things they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And so they can push for things like getting rid of cash, like they normally wouldn't be able to do that. Now, moving to a digital cashless society it's been on their bucket list for a long time. Like I said, in 2016, that Professor Rogoff was already pushing for that. Countries have already been doing this. But the pandemic, the CV pandemic, the hysteria, the emergency, whatever you want to call it, gives them a perfect opportunity to really push this through. And they're all ready. The central banks, they're already standing by, ready for this to happen. Like I already mentioned, Ecuador was the first to already launch their digital currency. I did a video, I'll link to it right here, where I talked about China's central bank and how they're already launching their own digital currency and how it could be backed by gold. I think more than 2/3 of the world's central banks have already said they're exploring and working on rolling out their own pure digital currency. The Bank of England, they're researching how to create a digital currency linked to Britain's currency, the pound sterling. The Bank of Canada is looking at issuing its own crypto version of the Canadian dollar. Sweden's Riksbank, it's the world's oldest central bank. They're exploring what they call the e-krona. It's a digital-only version of the Swedish krona. We got Japan, we got Singapore, we got Denmark, we got Norway. They're all among countries that are working right now to put out a digital-only replacement for their national currencies. Now, there's a plan in place. The highest levels of the United States, I've talked about this in other videos, where they want to introduce a digital-only dollar payment system. I did a video recently about the showdown that's inevitable, that's happening. Now, in this new system, the Fed will be able to simply just credit people's account, right? Your Fed account, and they'll just put their Fed coin right into your Fed account digitally. And it would really help getting the stimulus money out to people, right? However, if they can just put money in your account, they can also delete money out of your account. Not only can they delete money out of your account, they can monitor everything that you're doing financially, approve what you can do, disapprove what you can do, block it, etc. Now, look, I'm not trying to scare you any more than you might already be. I know people's stress levels and fear levels are sky high. The CV pandemic is definitely doing that, and it's created a lot of market turbulence. We don't know what we're going to do for jobs, what we're going to do for money. We don't know what's going to happen with the markets. We don't know anything right now. And a lot of people are deeply confused, and I get that. All right. Now, some people are even more paralyzed by this because not only are they confused, but they don't know what to do. But I just want to let you know that in times of profound change like this, the most lucrative wealth building opportunities are around. All right. When there's times of change, when people are moving, people get scared, but this is the time. This is where the opportunities are. Now, you might be asking yourself, where are those opportunities? Well, those opportunities are going to be in places where you already hold your wealth. Now, but where do you hold your wealth outside of your dollars, outside of your currency, outside of your country's paper fiat dollars? And as people start to realize this and start to flood into these other areas to put your money, then it's going to continue to push those up. So not only will we be protecting your wealth, it's also going to be increasing because the demand's going up. It's always supply and demand, always supply and demand. So as the dollar's value go down, these other areas will be going up based off supply and demand. Now, what do I have in mind? Well, again, if you're no strangers to the channel, you probably already know what I'm talking about. Of course, my favorites, gold and Bitcoin, come to mind for me. Gold's been money for 5,000 years. Just yesterday, I think it got back to its new all-time high, and it has smooth sailing, clear skies, as we say, and I expect it to do really, really well. It has a long way to go. Of course, my favorite, a little bit riskier bet, but has way more upside, is Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin also just crossed a key level just yesterday. It got over $10,000. It's a very, very key level. And we've seen it jump from 10,000 to 20,000 in like 18 days. It can happen again. So it's more risky, more risk, more reward, right? Now, the thing that I want you to take away from this fourth shock that's coming is that history shows us that when these changes come, these massive changes to the monetary system, people get crushed. All right. Now, this is not a prediction. This is what history shows us. We've connected the dots. This is what it's saying. The wheels are already in motion. This is happening. The only question is, are you prepared? That's the only question. So let me know. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know, are you prepared? Do you see the dots connected? Are you prepared for the end of the dollar or for this new digital dollar that's controlled? Leave me a comment, yes or no. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. If you don't like this video, give me a thumbs down. Either way, it's okay. Let me know. I always want to hear from you. I try to answer every comment, but now I'm getting so many comments that I find it hard. So the first day or two, I'll try and answer all your comments. All right, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up on this video, and that's it. To your success.